The doorbell rang. I opened the door and froze. A pregnant woman stood on my porch, clutching a suitcase and a crumpled napkin with my address on it. "You're Naomi, right? Andrew's wife." I nodded, confused. "I'm Anna," she said. 7 months pregnant, with Andrew's baby. Andrew, my husband, lay inside, recovering from an accident. The pregnant stranger looked past me into my house. "Can I come in? I've been traveling all day." Still confused, I stepped aside. 30 minutes later, I was making up the guest bedroom for my cheating husband's pregnant mistress, while he begged me to understand. The next day, I did something no one, not even Andrew, saw coming. To understand how this all began, and what I did to Andrew, allow me give you a brief background into my marriage. Meanwhile, if you believe people should face consequences for their actions, hit like and subscribe. Only manipulators and emotional abusers won't subscribe. My name is Naomi Patterson. I'm 31 years old, and I live in Montgomery, Alabama, with my husband, Andrew. For the past 8 years, I've worked as a financial analyst for Citibank. Andrew and I met when I was 27. He was 30, working in sales for a movie production company. Proud and charming in that way that makes you feel special. My father had spent my entire childhood telling me I wasn't good enough, that no man would ever really want me. When Andrew told me he loved me, I thought I'd finally proved my father wrong. We got married 2 years later. A marriage that was riddled with lies and deceit. The first time Andrew cheated was 6 weeks after our wedding. It was with a woman from his office. When I confronted him, he cried and promised never to do it again. I forgave him because my father's voice was in my head saying, "See? I told you that you weren't good enough to keep a man." I thought if I just tried harder, Andrew wouldn't need to look elsewhere. 3 months later, he hit on my sister Rebecca at Thanksgiving dinner. He'd cornered her in the hallway, put his hand on her waist, told her she was beautiful. Rebecca wanted me to leave him right then. Instead, I apologized to my sister for my husband's behavior. I also apologized to Andrew for whatever I'd done to make him act that way. The pattern continued. A coworker, a woman at the gym, someone he met at a conference. Each time, he'd get caught or confess during a fight. Each time, I'd tell myself that this was normal, that marriages had rough patches, that I just needed to be more understanding. Then came the herpes. I started feeling sick one morning. Burning sensations, painful sores. I went to the doctor thinking I had a bladder infection. The test results came back positive for HSV-2, genital herpes. I sat in that examination room, staring at the paper, not understanding. I'd only ever been with Andrew. I spent $3,000 on medications and specialist visits that year. Andrew never apologized or showed concern. When I told him, he shrugged and said it probably came from someone else, even though we both knew he'd given it to me from one of his affairs. I still forgave him, because somewhere deep inside, I wanted to prove my father wrong. But something happened that almost ended his life. 6 months ago, Andrew was driving to meet another woman when a driver ran a red light and T-boned his car. Fractured vertebrae, nerve damage, temporary paralysis. The doctors said he might walk again with intensive therapy, but it would take months, maybe years. He had lied to me that it was a business trip. I got the call while at work and rushed to the hospital. In the ICU, he cried when he saw me, not because he was hurt, but because he knew I'd found out. I looked at him, and I felt nothing. Not anger, not betrayal, just exhaustion. But I stayed. I brought him home when he was discharged. Set up the hospital bed in our bedroom because he couldn't manage stairs. Bathed him, fed him, managed his medications, did everything while working full-time because his job had terminated him. I wanted to be the perfect wife even when he was at his lowest. It was during this time that Anna showed up at our house. One Tuesday afternoon in early October, I'd taken a half day to bring Andrew to a physical therapy appointment. We'd just gotten home, and I was helping him back into bed when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. Andrew's mother sometimes dropped by, but she usually called first. I opened the door and saw a young woman standing on my porch. Mid-20s, blonde hair pulled into a messy bun, wearing leggings and an oversized pink sweatshirt that couldn't hide the pronounced curve of her pregnant belly. She had a small rolling suitcase beside her and a backpack over one shoulder. She looked tired, and she looked like she'd been crying recently, her eyes puffy and red. "Can I help you?" I asked, thinking maybe she had the wrong address. She looked at me with something that might have been sympathy or might have been pity. You're Naomi, right? Andrew's wife. My stomach dropped. Yes, I'm Anna. She said it like I should recognize the name. Anna Mitchell. I'm. She put her hand on her belly. I'm having Andrew's baby. I was stunned and stood there, unable to process what I'd just heard. What? I'm pregnant. With Andrew's baby. About 7 months now. She shifted uncomfortably. Can I come in? I've been traveling all day. I stepped aside. Not because I wanted her to enter, but because my body moved automatically, going through the motions of politeness while my brain tried to catch up. She rolled her suitcase in and looked around the living room like she was evaluating it. Where is he? She asked. I couldn't speak. I pointed toward the bedroom. She walked that direction and pushed open the bedroom door. Andrew was propped up on pillows, his phone in his hands. He looked up, saw her, and the phone fell onto his lap. His face went white. Anna. His voice cracked. What are you doing here? What does it look like? She gestured at her belly. I'm 7 months pregnant and broke, and you stopped answering my texts. I stood in the doorway, watching this conversation happen, watching my husband's face cycle through shock, fear, and something that might have been anger. You can't just show up here. Andrew's voice was rising. We talked about this. I sent you money. You sent me $200 3 months ago. That's it. I've been working double shifts at a diner in Honolulu until I couldn't fit behind the counter anymore. Anna's voice was sharp, defensive. I don't have family. I don't have anywhere to go. And this baby, your baby, is coming in 2 months. That's not my problem. Andrew said it coldly, like he was talking about a package that got delivered to the wrong address. That's when Anna turned to me. Did you know about me? I shook my head slowly. We met in Maui, when you two were there for your anniversary. She said it matter-of-factly, like she was describing the weather. We hooked up a few times. He told me he was in a failing marriage, that he was planning to leave you. Said you two barely even talked anymore. That's not. I never said that. Andrew's voice was desperate now. Naomi, I swear I never. This was nothing. It meant nothing. Something inside me was starting to crack, like ice forming over water. That's when it clicked. Our 2-year anniversary, a few months back in Hawaii. Andrew had insisted on going big, said we needed to reconnect. We stayed at a beautiful resort in Maui, one of those places with infinity pools and private beaches. I thought it was romantic. I had no idea that every time I went to the spa or took a walk on the beach, he was busy sleeping with other women. One of such women was now in our house, pregnant. How many times? I asked quietly. What? Andrew looked at me. How many times did you sleep with her during our anniversary trip? He opened his mouth, closed it. His face flushed red. Naomi, does it matter? This was months ago. I made a mistake. For times, Anna said flatly. Naomi. Andrew's voice was pleading. Please, let me explain. There's nothing to explain, I said. My voice sounded strange, distant, like it was coming from someone else. She's here. She's pregnant. Those are the facts. Anna shifted her weight, one hand supporting her lower back. Look, I don't want to cause problems. I just need a place to stay until the baby comes. Then I'll figure something out. Absolutely not. Andrew tried to sit up straighter, winced at the pain. You can't stay here. This is ridiculous. Where am I supposed to go? Anna's voice rose. I spent my last money on the plane ticket. You said you'd take care of things. I sent you money. $200 doesn't even cover a month of prenatal vitamins. They were arguing, in my bedroom, about logistics. Like I wasn't even there. Like this was a problem to be solved rather than the final destruction of whatever remained of my marriage. I walked to the guest bedroom, opened the door. It was small, mostly used for storage, but it had a bed and a dresser. I started moving boxes, clearing space. My hands moved mechanically. Behind me, Andrew was yelling my name, asking what I was doing. Anna had gone quiet. You can stay here, I said to Anna when the room was clear enough. Until the baby comes. Naomi, no. Andrew's voice was sharp with panic. You can't just. We need to talk about this. Talk about what? I turned to look at him. Really look at him. You slept with her. She's pregnant. She has nowhere to go. Those are the facts. Anna moved her suitcase into the guest room. I helped her unpack in silence. She kept glancing at me, like she was waiting for me to scream or break down or throw her out. I didn't do any of those things. I just helped her hang clothes in the closet and put toiletries in the guest bathroom. That night, I made dinner for 3. Pasta with marinara sauce. I set the table in the kitchen. Put Andrew's plate on a tray so I could carry it to him. Made sure Anna had enough water. We ate in separate rooms. Andrew in the bedroom, Anna in the guest room, me alone at the kitchen table. I stared at my food and tried to remember the last time I'd felt anything. The last time I'd believed I could fix this if I just tried hard enough. I couldn't remember. But sitting there alone, I realized something. I was tired of apologizing and forgiving. I finished my dinner, washed the dishes, and when I went to carry Andrew's empty plate from the bedroom, he tried to grab my hand. Naomi, please. Can we talk about this? About what? About all of this. Anna being here. The baby. Us. What about us? I love you. His eyes were wet. I know I've messed up. I know I've hurt you. But I love you. And I need you. Look at me. He gestured at his body. I can't do this alone. I can't. Please don't give up on me. I looked at him. This man I'd sacrificed everything for. This man who'd cheated on me so many times I'd lost count. Who'd given me a disease. Hit on my sister and brought his pregnant mistress into our home. And I felt nothing. Okay, I said. Relief flooded his face. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll do better. Once I can walk again, I'll make this up to you. I'll be the husband you deserve. I nodded and took his plate to the kitchen. I didn't tell him, but that was the moment I stopped being his wife. From that day on, he was on his own. The next day, I did something no one, not even Andrew, saw coming. I stopped caring. The change wasn't dramatic. I just stopped doing the things I'd been doing. Stopped helping him to the bathroom at night when he called for me. He could use the bedpan or struggle there himself. Stopped bringing him meals. The kitchen was there. He could figure out how to get food. Stopped doing his physical therapy exercises with him. The therapist had given him instructions. He was a grown man. He could manage. The first morning, Andrew called from the bedroom. Naomi, can you help me up? I need to use the bathroom. I was in the kitchen, drinking coffee. I heard him. I didn't respond. Naomi. His voice got louder. I really need help. I rinsed my coffee cup and put it in the dishwasher. Naomi. He was yelling now. This isn't funny. I walked to the bedroom doorway. He was struggling to sit up, his face red with effort and frustration. What? I asked calmly. I need help getting to the bathroom. You have Anna now. Ask her. She's still asleep. And she's pregnant, she can't. Please, Naomi. You have arms. The walker is right there. Figure it out. I turned and left. Behind me, I heard him cursing, heard the struggle as he tried to move himself. Heard him finally yell for Anna. I closed the door to my home office and started working. This became the pattern. Andrew would ask for help. I would tell him to ask Anna. He would protest. I would leave. Eventually, he'd manage on his own or Anna would help him, though she wasn't happy about it. I'm 7 months pregnant. I heard her snap at him one afternoon. I'm not your nurse. Well, my wife isn't acting like my wife anymore, Andrew shot back. Maybe because you cheated on her with me and got me pregnant. Anna's voice was cold. I don't know what you expected, Andrew. Did you think she'd just keep taking care of you like nothing happened? She's supposed to love me. In sickness and in health, that's what she promised. The days turned into weeks. I went to work, came home, made dinner for myself, ate alone. Then I'd go to my office or the living room, anywhere that wasn't near Andrew or Anna. I'd stopped sleeping in our bedroom. The couch in my office pulled out into a bed. I'd been using it. Andrew tried everything to get me to engage. Guilt. How can you abandon me when I'm like this? Anger. You're my wife. You're supposed to help me. Manipulation. My mother was right about you. You're cold. Self-pity. I'm in pain and you don't even care. None of it worked. Because he was right. I didn't care. Anna watched this unfold with increasing discomfort. She'd moved into our house thinking Andrew would take care of her, at least financially. Instead, she found herself in a house with a disabled man who couldn't work and a wife who'd stopped doing anything for either of them. This is insane, Anna said to me one evening. I was making grilled cheese for dinner. She was sitting at the kitchen table, both hands on her belly. You're just going to let him suffer? Am I stopping you from helping him? I'm pregnant with his baby. That should be enough. I flipped my sandwich, heard it sizzle. I ignored her and walked away. I ate my sandwich in the living room, leaving Anna sitting at the kitchen table, her face a mixture of shock and realization. The next day, I heard them arguing in the bedroom. Anna's voice sharp and accusatory. Andrew's voice defensive, then angry. The fight lasted an hour. When Anna emerged, her eyes were swollen from crying. And I didn't. That was the strange part. For 2 years, I'd cared desperately about everything. Now I felt nothing. Not even satisfaction at watching him struggle. Just empty, peaceful nothing. But the people around us didn't understand. Andrew's mother, Patricia, started calling me daily. At first, it was subtle. "Honey, I know things are hard right now, but Andrew really needs you." Then it got more direct. "You're being selfish, Naomi. He's disabled. He needs his wife." When I didn't respond the way she wanted, she got mean. "You know what? I always thought you were cold. Now I see I was right. What kind of woman abandons her husband when he's helpless? The kind whose husband cheated on her 7 times and brought his pregnant mistress into their home," I said calmly. "That's no excuse. Marriage is work. You don't just give up because things get hard." "You're right," I said. "That's why I stayed through the first 2 affairs. That's why I stayed when he gave me an STD and hit on my sister at Thanksgiving. That's why I brought him home from the hospital and took care of him for months while working full-time to pay our bills. I worked very hard on this marriage, Patricia. I just stopped working when his pregnant mistress showed up at my door." She sputtered. "But he's your husband. He's suffering. Then you come take care of him. I have responsibilities. I can't just. Then I guess we both have limits." I hung up. I had already decided my next move. Over the weeks after Anna's arrival, I gathered up all the evidence I could find. Bank statements, medical bills I'd paid, documentation of every affair I could prove, text messages I'd saved, the hospital record showing my herpes diagnosis, my sister's written statement about Andrew hitting on her. Even Anna's presence in our house was documented. I'd taken photos of her room, of her moving her belongings in. I contacted an attorney, Claire Willow. She came recommended from a colleague whose sister had gone through a difficult divorce. Claire specialized in cases like mine, women who'd been emotionally abused, financially exploited, or trapped in marriages with serial cheaters. She had a reputation for being ruthless and winning. Our first meeting was on a Thursday afternoon. I took a long lunch and met her at her office downtown. Claire was in her 50s, professionally dressed, with sharp eyes that seemed to evaluate everything. We sat in her conference room, and I laid out my documentation. She went through it methodically, didn't react, just read, occasionally making notes. When she finished, she looked up at me. "How long has this been going on?" 2 years. Since 6 weeks after we got married. "And you stayed because?" I almost gave her the easy answer. "Because I was trying to make it work." But Claire's eyes were too direct for lies. "Because my father told me my entire childhood that I wasn't good enough. That no man would ever really want me. When Andrew cheated, I believed him. I thought if I just tried harder, was better, he'd stop. I spent 2 years trying to be good enough." Claire nodded slowly. "And now I know I was always good enough. He's just never going to be faithful. And I'm done trying to fix something that was broken from the start. What do you want from this divorce?" "I want out. Cleanly. I don't want his debt. I don't want to be responsible for his medical bills going forward. I want to walk away." Claire studied me for a long moment. "All right." Claire made a note. "Let's talk strategy." 2 weeks later, Claire filed the divorce papers. I moved out the same day. I moved back to my parents' house in Birmingham, Alabama. Andrew was served with the papers on a Monday afternoon. I was at work when my phone started ringing. Andrew's number, then Patricia's, then Anna's, then numbers I didn't recognize. I turned my phone off and went back to work. That evening, I came home to my parents and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. Like I'd been holding my breath underwater for so long I'd forgotten what air felt like. And now I was finally on the surface again, breathing. The divorce proceedings moved quickly. Claire had filed for an expedited hearing given the circumstances. The court date was set for 6 weeks out. In that time, Andrew and his family tried to reach me. I ignored them. Patricia left the most voicemails, calling me every name she could think of, telling me I was going to suffer for abandoning her son. That karma would punish me. That I'd never find anyone else, because what man wants a woman who abandons people when things get hard? I didn't care. Let her think what she wanted. I was done performing for the approval of people who'd never respected me anyway. The court date arrived. I showed up wearing a simple gray dress. composed and ready for a showdown. Andrew was there with his brother James, who'd helped him into the building. He looked terrible, eyes sunken. His parents sat in the gallery, and Anna, visibly pregnant now, sat in the back row, looking uncomfortable and out of place. The judge was a woman in her 60s named Judge Hartley. She reviewed the file briefly, then looked at both parties. This is a dissolution of marriage petition with contested property division. Mrs. Patterson, you're represented by Ms. Willow. Mr. Patterson, you're representing yourself? Andrew's brother had hired a lawyer for him, a young guy named Derek Foster who looked like he meant business. He stood. Your Honor, I'm representing Mr. Patterson. Very well. Ms. Willow, you may present your case. Claire stood, and I watched her transform. The professional woman from our meetings became something sharper. She spoke clearly and calmly, but every word was a blade. She slid a folder across to the judge, then argued that I had forgiven several affairs, including one that led to an infection. But the final straw was Andrew's mistress showing up with a baby bump. Claire's voice didn't rise, didn't get emotional, just stated facts. Derek Foster countered that Andrew was incapacitated and needed my support. Under Alabama law, Claire interrupted smoothly, the court considers fault when determining support. Your client committed adultery. Repeatedly. He infected my client with a disease. He brought his pregnant mistress into the marital home. These are not the actions of someone entitled to ongoing financial support from the spouse he betrayed. Derek Foster tried again. But Your Honor, he's disabled. He can't work. Someone has to take care of him. His mother is in the courtroom, Claire said calmly. His brother brought him here. Ms. Mitchell is carrying his child. He has a support system. What he doesn't have is the right to demand his ex-wife continue funding and caring for him after he destroyed their marriage. Judge Hartley looked at Andrew directly. Mr. Patterson, is there anything you'd like to say? Andrew lifted his head, which had been hanging low in humiliation. His voice shook when he spoke. Your Honor, I made mistakes. Terrible mistakes. But I love my wife. And I need her. I can't do this alone. I'm getting better, but I still need help with basic things. Please. You can't just let her abandon me like this. I'm crippled. The word hung in the air. Crippled. He'd said it like it was a trump card. Like his disability erased everything he'd done. Judge Hartley's expression didn't change. After several hours of arguments, she looked down at her notes, then back up. The court grants the dissolution of marriage. Mrs. Patterson is not required to provide spousal support. The marital home and its contents will go to Mr. Patterson, as Mrs. Patterson has requested. Each party is responsible for their own debts going forward. Any shared debts incurred during the marriage will be split according to who benefited from them. Medical expenses related to Mr. Patterson's care that Mrs. Patterson paid will be considered gifts and not reimbursable. Derek Foster started to object, but Judge Hartley held up her hand. This court will not force a woman who was repeatedly betrayed to continue supporting the man who betrayed her simply because he's now disabled. Had Mr. Patterson shown his wife the basic respect and fidelity she deserved, she might have chosen to stay and help him. But he didn't. Actions have consequences. That's my ruling. She brought down the gavel. Andrew let out a muffled cry. His brother squeezed his shoulder. Patricia stood up in the gallery, her face twisted with rage. Her eyes were on me, full of hatred. Claire gathered her files efficiently. That went well, she said quietly to me. I nodded. I felt strange. Light. Like something heavy I'd been carrying for years had suddenly been lifted. We stood to leave. As we passed Andrew's row, he reached out and grabbed my arm. Not hard, just desperate. Naomi, please, he said, his voice breaking. Please don't do this. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll change. I'll be better. Just please don't leave me like this. You can't leave me. I'm crippled. I looked down at his hand on my arm, then at his face. Andrew, I said quietly, you left me long before the accident. I'm just catching up. I pulled my arm away gently and walked out of the courtroom. Behind me, I heard him start to cry. Real broken sobs. Patricia was yelling something. Anna was just sitting there, looking shell-shocked. But I didn't turn around. I walked out of that courtroom free from an abusive marriage. Some say I overreacted. Do you agree? What would you have done? Well, if this story moved you and made you think about what you accept in your own life, then stick around. Every week I share stories about people who walked away from what was killing them. Hit that subscribe button if you believe that your peace matters more than other people's comfort. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one.